Josh here from Chick Fox Productions with another episode of Memories of Us podcast. Today, Tony conversates with another great dude doing a lot of great things, Tracy Brinkman, founder of Dark Horse Schooling, and also podcast host of Dark Horse Entrepreneur podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Memories of Us. Today, we got Tracy Brinkman, and there's not enough great words I can say about this man. He is an entrepreneur, he is a podcaster, and so much more. And so I don't want to give away too much because I think you guys are going to enjoy this episode. Tracy, how you doing today, brother?
Man, like I told you earlier, I am 3 shades of wonderful. It's another beautiful day in paradise around here.
Man, I love it. I love it. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself, man. How you got to do
it. And you'll have to check me every once in a while because you know me, I will run my mouth for a bit. But and thank you for the kind words and having me on the show first. I'm just a humble guy. I come from a military background. My father, 23 years in the military, and I actually am very thankful for that for multiple reasons. Obviously, the pride of my father being a veteran, but nice. the moving every couple of years fostered in me a little bit of sociability, right? Being able to connect with people, which is something I've leveraged through the remainder of my life. And I was exposed to a myriad of types of people, be it skin color or religion or just how they thought inside their heads. I got exposed to all kinds of that. And then when you're on base, there's a whole mix of cultures and creeds and races, so there was all of that all mixed in at the same time. So I grew up with that. And then when my dad retired, it was probably my early teens, we settled in Southern California. Now, I went from the amazing structure of a military lifestyle to probably not just the most liberal place in the country of the United States, but probably the most liberal on the planet, right? And as a young man, spreading my wings in my teen years, probably not the greatest place to set me in because, I turned from this short-haired, very geeky guy doing good in school to a surf dude, right? Probably the only thing I didn't do was start smoking pot. I jumped on a surfboard right away, got into rock and roll, the whole 9 yards, started hanging around with probably not the greatest crowds. And that led to an opportunity for me to either go to jail or join the service. I'm just going to say it like it is, right?
Sometimes the options are the only ones we have, right?
That's right. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to join the military and get away. And I went back to Germany, where I had just been probably just 3-4 years prior. Ended up getting stationed 60 miles away from where, like I said, I'd just been, and did my tour of duty over there. Came back, I got some great skills. Came back to Southern California and started a computer consulting business, doing computer programming for preferred provider organizations. And I was starting to make some coin. I'm like, I'm in my early 20s, making some bank. And let's step right back into hanging around with the crowds that we were hanging around with before you joined the service. And let's introduce drugs into the scene at the same time. If anyone's ever seen the movie Blow, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That same timeline. Okay. So when all that stuff was blowing up in Southern California, that's when I had all that money in my pocket. And it was introduced to me. Actually, it wasn't cocaine for me. It was speed that really got me. And it was introduced to me as an opportunity to, hey, I had this big project, this computer programming project, wow, you mean I could stay up all night and still be functional? And they're like, yeah, man, check it and try it out. And everything's good and fun the first few times, right? But then it grabs you, it grabs you by the throat, throws you down, chokes you out, but you don't realize it. You're having fun. You're having a good time. The business starts fading off. I start paying less and less attention to it. Clients jump ship. So I started selling the product to support my habit. And I found out, dang it, I'm pretty damn good at it, because those people skills I mentioned earlier, right? I could connect with people. I could get people to do it for me. So I could just sit on my butt and collect cash, keep doing my drugs, and have a good time. And it got to the point where the police literally kicked the door open to my condo. Luckily, I wasn't there when it happened. I was probably out, well, not probably, I was out on a party binge. It was probably a 2 or 3 day party binge. And I was coming back Sunday morning and I saw, literally the door was kicked open to my condo. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Now, mind you, when you're running the streets in that kind of lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
having your place broken into, part and parcel with the game, right? It
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
happens. Stuff gets stolen, whatever.
yeah. It kind
So
of
I
comes with
thought
the
maybe
territory.
I got jacked with somebody, right?
Yeah.
But when I walked in, it was like just like you see in the movies, right? Stuff is thrown all over, furniture's tipped over. There were cereal and instant potato boxes had been emptied out on the floor and on the counters. And I'm looking around, well, what the hell's going on? And like I said, it was early in the morning, and there was a knock on the door, and I turned, and two plainclothes police officers introduced themselves, the detectives, and asked me who I was and my place. Yeah, and they explained what had happened. That someone had ratted me out, saying that this location was known for the distribution of methamphetamines, and did I have any ID? Sure, no problem. Pause. 3 days, 4 days prior, so this was Sunday morning, the
Okay.
previous Thursday, I was out with a brother of mine, and we went to the firing range. Right now, I owned no guns, no weapons of any. Well, I had a crossbow, whatever. I owned no weapons, and so I had his guns, and we were out there shooting at the firing range, the two of us. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, I'd like to come back here Friday or Saturday to shoot again. Would you mind if I held on to your?" He had a 357 and a 44 mag. He said, sure, no problem. Well, obviously, I got into my party bench, never made it back to the firing range. They're in my briefcase. By the way, that's also where I keep my wallet. So back to Sunday morning, the detectives say, do you have any ID? Sure, it's right over here in my briefcase. Dramatic pause.
Oh.
I walk over to my briefcase and I open it up, not thinking about Thursday's events, just trying to be, the agreeable citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Open up, and obviously one detective was right beside me. He saw the weapons, yells, gun, tackles me down onto the couch, instantly handcuffs me. And you know what? I don't blame him. Even then, I didn't blame him. Hey, if I was a police officer and I see someone opening up a briefcase and there's two guns in there, I'm protecting myself too.
Exactly.
I'm a private citizen. I would do it now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so they take me down to the police station and they question me for, I'm trying not to exaggerate, it was at least 2-3 hours. And
Jesus.
the questions they were asking were a little too close to home. They knew way too much information. And I was really getting scared. I'm not so proud to tell you. I was a little shaken in my shoes and I was lying through my teeth. Do you know this person? And they named the person. I'm like, I don't know who that person is. Oh, you've never seen this person at this location? If I've seen them, I don't know them by name. I may have seen him. Like I may have seen Tony standing on the other side of a bar,
Right.
but I didn't know him. You know what I'm saying? And after they finished questioning me for a bit, they threw me back into a cell. And the next morning, they reached out to the person who owned the guns. He confirmed the story about being out at the firing range, forgetting that he had lent them to me and everything. So they released me, and on the walk home, I had that kind of come to Jesus moment. It's like, holy crap, I was that close.
Yeah.
Right. I was walking that. Now, here's the other piece of the story, and is that I had a 3-month-old baby, 3 or 4 months at that time. And growing up, my father was always family first, family first. My father was a very manly man. He's 6'3". Looks like he should have been a linebacker for the football team, right?
Yeah.
And but he was that guy that when something happened to me or my mom, bam, he was right there. Everything else stopped. The world stopped. My dad was there. Never a doubt. So I'm walking home from the police station, and this is running through my head, this family first thing, and oh shit, I was almost in prison for a lengthy period of time.
Right.
And my daughter, that's all I could think about. And so when I got back home, I picked up the phone and called mom and dad and says, I need to have a chat with you. I need your help. I didn't want to talk to her, any details over the phone. Drove over there, explained what was going on, humbled myself and said, I need help. I need your help. I need to get off this drug, but I need someone to watch my daughter while I do this, and
Right.
thank God, or whoever you believe in, for my mom and my dad and the gentleman I call my brother. I met him in my teens, and my brother from another mother. He was the one person through all of this I could always go and talk to, and he knew who I was because he met me long before all the caca hit the fan.
Right.
And he knew I was a better person, and he was like, dude, I've been waiting for you to be ready to do this. And so with their help, I literally went cold turkey. I set up a bed in the garage of my mom and dad's house, and that became my domicile as I literally sweated out the dope, and flopped around like a fish, trying, as my body is doing its thing. And
Right.
I probably literally slept for 3, maybe 4 days straight, getting up enough to do, bodily functions and shovel some food down my face. And that was big turning point number one in my life. It's like I overcame that,
Right.
but that came with this mule-sized kick to the head, in the form of this self-esteem nosedive. I had these amazing, computer programming skills, and I could have probably just turned right around, walked right back out to the market and started making that money again. But I didn't feel worthy. You know what I'm saying? You ever
Yeah.
done something in your life where you're like, dude, I just feel like shit for having done that to whoever, to yourself, to your
Oh yeah.
family, you know?
Oh
And
yeah.
so I started having to go through, well, I chose to start going through, day jobs. I started working in a warehouse. I worked on a dock on the swing shift. I took, accounting jobs, anything that started help me build my self-confidence back up, right?
Okay.
Start feeling
Yeah.
good about myself. And probably about 8 months, maybe just under a year of doing that, I felt, okay, I can get back out there in the market. But I was still a little shaken. I didn't want to jump back into the entrepreneurial pool. So I put myself out on the regular marketplace, and that started my climb in corporate America. I landed a good role at the Coca-Cola company, stayed with them for like 12 years, and just started that nice on-writing climb. I've been babbling here for a bit. I didn't know if you wanted to dive in anywhere or
No, no,
questions.
I'm listening to you. As you're going and everything, like I'm paying attention, man. And
Sure,
one thing I want to say, man, thank you for your service, and thank your dad for his service as well.
absolutely.
I'm always in support of our veterans out there, man. You guys are putting yourself on the line, and following your journey. Like I have seen the movie Blow.
Yeah,
I say, and I'm listening to you. I'm like, he was living the actual life of,
I was.
of Blow,
Yeah.
and having the police kicking in, and now, so I did want to touch on something because now you
Sure.
got your 3-month-old daughter, and you
Yeah.
got your daughter with you. You know, how did that work out? Did your parents actually help you with that? And
You know what? They did an amazing job, and I'll add a layer of complexity with that. So I had the mother of my daughter.
mhm,
We were still together when all this took place, right? So she came with me to my mom and dad's house, and we were just like dating, whatever you want to call it, right?
right,
There were long-term plans. However, she didn't have the ability to walk away from the drug scene over the long term. Like 3 or 4 months into being with my mom and dad, she started going back to things, and that came to a point where it's like, look, here's the thing, I'm out. I'm not even looking back. I'm going this way. I totally cut myself off from everybody in that environment. Because for me, that's the
right,
only way I could do it. I couldn't play around the edges because I knew full well how fun it was, and I could get sucked right back into it. And I just refused to do that.
right,
And so when she started going back in and playing around the edges, I'm like, that's it. I'm filing for rights to my, soul not ownership, you know what I'm saying, sole parental rights to my
Right.
child. And if you're going to keep doing this, I'm out. And shortly after I filed, the Coca-Cola company told me they were moving my role to Atlanta, which further fostered my desire to do that so that I could take her with me and just like, all right, if you want to see her, she's out here in Atlanta with me. And so, I ended up going to court and winning that battle. And we didn't see each other for like 2 decades.
Wow.
After that happened, she got back into the scene, and I just happened to come across her on Facebook probably about 10 years ago. And she finally did get out, but she was in it for a long time afterwards. But yes, coming back to your question, sorry,
Oh no, no, you're good.
mom and dad were instrumental in helping me with this, because they were I'll call them my living babysitters. My mom was happy as a lark. My dad he called her his China doll, because she was
Okay.
a little bitty thing. She had dark hair and white skin, so he was like her little China doll. And it's really cool when you see large men with a child, and
Oh man.
how they it's like that old joke. If a 3-year-old walks up to you with a phone and says, "Here," you're going to answer it. I don't care how big and badass you are. You're going to say hello. You know
Exactly.
what I'm saying?
And the crazy part about it is we as men, we always get the baby voice. We
Hello?
always do the hello, hello, yes. And then we have a conversation on the
Yes.
phone.
Right?
I
You
mean,
feel
come
me?
on, man. There's nothing better, right? There's a couple of twins
There's not.
for a while that I was hanging out with. They were little ones. And so every
Mhm.
time they would come over to the office, I would grab them and just hold them both in my arms. And so they got to the thing to where they would take off the shoes and try to trade them with one another. And then they would trade the
Mhm.
pacifiers. And here I am in the middle of both of them talking to them about not trading off their pacifiers, going, you know what, this is not good. So no, man, best feeling in the world, it's just something about those moments. And then to hear the stories about your dad, it's just,
Yeah.
like it reminds me, because I have uncles that were uncles, a grandfather and a father that were in the military as well.
Mhm.
And I remember the conversation that they used to have, and I used to sit back and laugh at them until I got older. Then I
Yes.
became the one that everybody laughed at, and I'm just going, you know what? I don't even care. When it comes down to kids, man, we're softies. We're
Yeah.
huge softies, and I don't think a lot of people. Well, I think a lot of people realize it, but they don't realize how much of a softie we are
Yeah.
when it comes down to kids.
Yeah,
Even
absolutely.
early men. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
my dad was a big teddy bear.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know that from the outside looking in, right? But I think that's the way it's supposed to be, isn't it?
Hey, that's what they keep telling us, right?
As I'm telling you, right?
Right.
So I'll continue with the story, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's like two more dips in the story. And so here we are. All right, we've made our move out to Atlanta. We're on our meteoric rise in Coca-Cola. And I was lucky enough to land a role out there in Atlanta in the headquarters with a director who saw something in me, because whatever role I had, I always took my computer skills and applied them to make my job easier, which gave me time to look around to find more ways to make other people's job easier, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And she saw that and actually literally created a job title for me in her organization. And that was my job, was to go around the North America marketing department of Coca-Cola, find issues where they're systemic or customer service issues or logistics issues, and problem solve and create solutions and institute those solutions, which was awesome, because I got to do what I dreamed to do and create. So it was phenomenal.
Nice.
So now
Nice.
I am now getting married, and am married to somebody different. Right, a few years have passed. We're probably talking about 4 at this point, and new baby on the way. Ooh, yay! Right,
Nice.
and the baby comes a month early and has what they refer to as a distended abdomen, and which is just a fancy word for big belly. So, and I say this in complete jest because my dad had one. If you ever known a man who drank a lot of beer, right, and he had that big tummy, right, it
Oh yeah.
goes kind of jets out almost abnormally, like
Yeah.
pregnant man. That's imagine that on a baby right out of the womb, right? The baby's come out on a C-section, and she's got just huge tummy, the size of her. It was like larger than her head, larger than her head. What had happened, as they explained it to me later, was during like probably her first trimester of development, one of the arteries feeding her intestinal tract didn't develop fully.
Mm.
And so her intestinal tract didn't develop fully. Where you and I, when we were born, we may have had 200 centimeters of small intestine. She
Right.
was born with like 20. All right. And it was blocked. So the food that she was absorbing through the through through while she's in the womb
Right. The
didn't have
umbilical
anywhere to
cord.
go. She couldn't poop it out. And when babies are born, it's one of the first things they do. It's like they evacuate and they're sucking things out of orifice where it shouldn't be and everything. Well,
Right.
she had nowhere to go. It had nowhere to go. As a result of everything that was going on, she went through like 6 major operations in her first 3 months of life just to get her stable. They even tried something really fancy where they took the small intestine, and which is fraught with, arteries and capillaries and everything,
Hmm.
and they cut it in like this jigsaw pattern so they can combine it to 2 small tubes connected to end to end to give her more surface of her small intestine, because that's where we absorb the nutrition from the food that we consume.
Right.
It didn't give her enough. Um, One of the operations was installed what's called a TPN line, which is an acronym for Total Parental Nutrition. And it's a line that gets put in the chest. It literally delivers this fluid of raw nutrients right above the heart on the inbound flow of blood. So it goes into the heart, gets pumped straight into the body. And it's really just what it sounds like, total parental nutrition. It's the raw nutrients that you need to survive.
Right.
Well, the body being this amazing machine that it is, says, okay, you're going to give me all this nutrition in that format, then you don't need me to filter it. So this liver, yeah, you don't need that. So her liver starts to deteriorate. Now she needs a liver and small bowel transplant. So we go through everything to get her stabilized. They get her on the list. And, at that point, all you can do is wait and hope, right?
Right.
And while all this was going on, Tracy is out there talking to anybody that will listen about the benefits of being an organ donor. And to be honest with you, there's probably quite a few people that didn't want to listen, but they heard from me anyway.
That's okay.
So, that started, me on the public speaking path, right? Getting out
Okay.
in front of folks. I even had an opportunity to speak up in Pennsylvania to an audience of like 2,500 doctors and nurses. Because one of the funny things about being an organ donor, obviously, is, well, you need to not need your organs anymore,
Right.
right? And even
Right.
though on my driver's license it'll say organ donor, you still have to get permission from my family, just the way the law works. Now, let's say the example, it's me. I have just passed away, or maybe I'm on a respirator and I'm clinically dead, but my organs are still viable. Somebody on the staff, usually a nurse, has to ask my spouse, who's already grieving,
Hmm.
can we take his organs to use to save other people? Put yourself in that position for a second. That's just a tough spot to be,
That
right?
really
And
is.
I do not envy their jobs in the first place, but especially not at a moment like that. So, I was trying to come to them from my fatherly perspective and say, hey, stop thinking about it from just the perspective of their woes. Think about it from all the good that can come out of this obvious tragedy, right? It's a tragedy when we
Right.
lose somebody, but
Right.
here you can help 25, 30, on the norm. It's that many people from one person if the organs are viable. So, I was given that heartfelt kind of a presentation. And and anyone who is a parent will know where I'm going to go with this next one.
Right.
We had to move Krista and mom up to Pittsburgh because that's where the operation was going to end up happening when it happened. We did have one alarm. They give you a beeper, And they say, if this beeper goes off, grab your bags, head to the hospital. Things are going to happen fast, right? So you always had your bags at the ready, much like, when you have a pregnant wife, right? You've got those bags at the ready for that moment.
Oh yeah.
Things happen fast. Well, we did have an alarm that happened once. That beeper went off and we grabbed the bags, and I think I broke land speed records getting from my house down to downtown Atlanta. And we get there and they're like, oh, sorry, the organs that we thought were going to become available were not viable. Unfortunately, the young man who would have been donating them had fallen to abuse, physical abuse, and the organs were not usable. Right. So now you're not just brokenhearted for this
Right.
poor young man who obviously lost his life tragically through that. You're pissed off because your child now, because of that person, you just I get all these things going on.
Yeah. I think
And the
we all.
doctor says, hey, really the best place for this kind of operation to happen is Pittsburgh. They have they've mastered this particular operation. So, we made arrangements with the McDonald House and, got mom up in the McDonald House and the baby's in the hospital. Me and my oldest daughter from the drug scene, remember her? She's
Yeah.
now like 5. Okay. We're down in Atlanta. Right. And so I'm almost the single dad, right? Because I'm doing everything all, during the week by myself.
Right.
You appreciate the struggles of a solo father, right?
That's very true.
But then on the weekend, we'd fly up and go visit with mom and the baby as often as possible. And one weekend, probably about 17 and a half months in, get up there and you walk into the room and you can look at your child and something's wrong. Even though she's got all these other issues going on, your baseline is different. And I
Right.
walked in there and she wasn't smiling. The glimmer wasn't in her eye, just wasn't herself, right? So it kind of shook me and I couldn't make her laugh. And I was always able to make her laugh, to come back around to what we were talking about, as us fathers, we can do that. It's something about anyway. So I pulled the doctor aside, and and I'm asking him. I said, "So I have a question for you. If the organs were available right now, would she survive the operation?" And I got a lot of doctor speak and him and Han, and no joke, grabbed by the scuff of the collar of the jacket, pulled him into like a janitor's closet in the hallway, closed the door. I said, look, just you and me. There's no hospital administrators, no insurance companies, no one else is listening. And I re-asked the question. And finally he said, no, I honestly do not believe she would survive the operation. Her health has deteriorated so much. Okay. Not the answer I wanted, but now I know.
Right.
So the next question becomes, do you think her health can improve to the point where she would survive? A little more him and Han. But again, he didn't believe she was going to get any better. About 3 weeks prior to that, one of the hospital assistants was helping care for Krista and lost hold of her, and Krista literally fell on her head onto the floor, and she had this huge, almost banana-shaped hematoma on her head, and that's really started the downhill spiral of her health. Up to that point, all the prognosis was good. And after that accident, her body was already in a weakened state. Now it's using extra resources to try and heal this wound on her head. And she had just taken this nosedive deterioration. So at this point, the question became, do I keep her here for me? All right. Knowing she's not going to survive the operation if it happened right now.
Right.
And odds are she's not going to get any better. And she's on a respirator. That's what's keeping her breathing. That's how much her health had deteriorated at this point. So the choice was remove the respirator and, let her go, or keep her around. Now, if I look back at, my drug days, that was selfish, right? That was me just doing anything I wanted to do, having the good time, having the high life, whatever it was, selling, selfish. So this is ringing in my head. I can't do that. I can't be selfish anymore. I have to think past me, right? I've got another daughter, it's not about me. And I felt that if I would have been keeping her here in all that she was going through, it would have been just for me, right? Just so I could come see her, hold her, and talk to her, whatever. And so we made the choice to pull the respirator out, and I wrapped her up in her favorite blanket and sat down in the rocking chair in her room, and I rocked her to sleep one last time. Sorry.
No, don't apologize, my brother.
And I have known many people across the course of my life and not liked them all, but I have never not liked someone so much that I would wish that on anyone. But yet I'm still thankful that I had the opportunity to do that, to have that closure moment, to sit there and tell her, thank you for all the amazing things you've taught me. She was only with us for 18 months, but she taught me all these amazing lessons, how to look at life through different lenses, right? Everything was amazing to her, like any other baby. She had this thing she did. Anyone who's seen E.T., when he sticks his finger out and it glows.
Yeah.
Anytime Krista, that was her name, saw something new that she hadn't encountered before, she would always, that single finger would go out and she'd touch it. And it was real pensive, real slow. Once she touched it was like any baby. She grabbed it, she's in her mouth, she's playing with it, whatever. But it was all that inquisitiveness. All this stuff is going on in her life. She's yellow with jaundice, and all these things. And she always had a smile to greet you with, right? And those were lessons that I told her I was going to come away with. I was going to honor that through her. Right. And had I not been there, I might not have, I might have taken a totally different direction, right? Because I committed myself to her, to that.
Right.
And I also had, my first daughter. And so I had that family first thing is ringing in my head again. And I did not want to slip back into the darkness. I could have easily turned, and numb myself with alcohol or the drugs that were my thing from past days. And because I had been there and I knew what that held, and I said, nope, I'm not going to do that. I threw myself into my work in personal development, right? And that's when I started, like I mentioned earlier, the Tony Robbins, the Jim Rohns, the Brian Tracy's, going to all the seminars, which did wonders for me, right? There was a period right after that in 3 years, I got 5 raises because the stuff works. If you do the work, the stuff works, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The offside of that was I wasn't really being there 100% for my family, right? Because I was doing the job, I was working the work, and if I was at home, I was reading the books, and I was listening to the tapes and doing everything else. And at one point, probably about 4 or 5 years later, new daughter's in the mix. We had another baby, and my oldest daughter is like 9 now, and I come home from work, and the two of them are sitting at the table going, "Dad, we need to talk." Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever walk into your home and your children, who are both under 10, say it like that, "Mom, Dad, we need to talk," something's not going well. I'm just saying. And, I sat down, they're like, "Dad, we love the company you work for. We love, take my kids there. We got to do all kinds of good stuff. We love all the things that afford us, the home, the being able to go on vacations and all that noise. But we'd like to be able to spend some time with you."
Right.
Oh, my heart just fell to the floor. Here I was thinking I was being the cliche father, the breadwinner, right?
Right.
And bringing it, and I'm bringing it home, and I'm doing everything a man should do. And I'm dropping the ball on one of the most important things on the planet, right? Being a father. That family first comes right back around. And so, that was, probably check number 2. And so I started, resetting my value, just bringing everything back, re-looking at my values and seeing that, financial stability was like number 1. Maybe I should put family first, right? And then, and then put my health, maybe might not kind of would be high up there. And then now that I know my family's taken care of and I'm taken care of, now I can take care of the finances and everything else, right?
Right.
So, we're just got to do a reset of the values.
Now I got a question for you.
Sure, go for it.
Now, first off, I want to say, brother, I'm sorry you had to go and experience that pain of losing a child, and I do understand that pain as well. I don't wish that on no one. I, I don't
Right?
wish that on no one, and my heart felt that when you said that. So, heartfelt. Secondly, man, you mentioned something like diving into your work and everything, and
Mhm.
we often associate that, because we like to keep ourselves busy,
Yes.
and I think that's part of the process, the grieving process. Now,
Yeah.
do you feel that that was part of, now that you look back on it, because we as men not understanding what grief actually is, and being men trying to be, not trying to be, we are fixers in relationships,
Hmm.
in our own lives, and like you said, we neglect ourselves a lot
Yeah.
when it comes down to that. And
Yeah.
now you have your two daughters, both under the age of 10, going, we need to talk. Reflecting back on that, do you now see it, or do you feel that was part of your grieving process, trying to analyze and put everything back into perspective?
Yeah. I was trying to, and I've actually taken the time on both occasions to look back into the abyss of those moments. And you're absolutely right. It was, I don't know if it was the grieving process as so much as I wanted to get control,
Mm,
right? I
yeah,
wanted to have control of my world, whatever that meant. And I was good at my job, so I knew I could get control there and doing things. And as I stepped deeper and deeper into the personal development world, I started learning more about my thinking process and my mindset and breathing and how you hold yourself in, in physical form, kind of translates into your mental form. And so I started doing all of that. And I was working out like a madman. I was lucky enough that we had this amazing gym on site at Coca-Cola, so I could go into work early, bang out an hour, hour and a half in the gym, and then go, shower and sit at my desk, and it's 5 a.m. Huh, right?
right.
And then work a day. And I was pretty decent at getting out of the office because I went in at dark 30. But I would get out of the office between 3 and 5. So I still had the evening there. But, as I mentioned, I'm reading things, I'm doing things, playing video games, whatever it was, not really attaching myself to my kids,
Right.
right? So, because I was like, in my video game, I can control this. I know I can control it. So yeah, I think it was really my grieving process was regaining control. I was out of control. I couldn't save her life. I did all the right things and she's gone anyway, right? So I
Yeah.
threw myself into things that I knew I could control. Um, and so, yeah, shortly after that, Dad, we need to talk moment, I started getting a lot more involved. Thank goodness, right? But in some ways, it was a little bit too late, right? Because they'd already gone through a number of their informative years, and you're trying to catch up and connect at the same time. I don't want to say it was too late. I felt it was too late, but I was going after it anyway. Um, but I continued on my self development path, so I started making, 1 degree change here, which is, as you do 1 degree here, and as time goes on, it's further and further and further away from center, right?
Right.
Well, my then wife wasn't making any, she was going down that same path. Meanwhile, I'm doing that 1 degree a year, let's say, and all of a sudden, we're 45 degrees apart
Mm,
in our belief systems and how we want to raise our children. And there was a point where my oldest daughter was starting to, test the boundaries like kids do, right? They're like, okay,
well,
I'm
yeah.
trying to be an adult here. And but she's pulling her in, and there was a point where it got physical a couple of times, and I'm stepping in the middle, and I'm taking the abuse and trying to protect my daughter, and it got crazy to one point where the police were called. Now, the story is that oh, I step in the middle. She's swinging and flailing at me, right? Versus my daughter. And I take a couple of hits, and I've been in martial arts since I was like 9, so I'm doing the blocks and everything like that. And in one of the blocks, right, as I pulled my hand down, her hand hits her. She thinks it's my hand. Maybe it was. I honestly don't believe it was. She goes, "Oh, you just hit me. I'm calling the cops." I take out my phone. I dialed 911. I says, "Here, press send." And I handed her the phone because I knew I hadn't done anything wrong.
Right.
Right. And she gets on there and she tells them that I was abusing. I said, "Okay, here it is." I walk downstairs. I sit on the front deck and I wait for them to arrive. And like, this is it. I'm not engaging in this anymore. And here's what I didn't know. The police officers walk up. One goes inside to talk to her. The female police officer stays out and talks to me. And I stand up to talk to her. And she's asked me, and I explained everything that was going on. And my daughter's upstairs. And, since that phone call, I told my daughter to go across the street to one of the neighbors' house, just, so that this gets handled between the adults, quote unquote. Right. And the police officer noticed I had gashes. Right. And the start of bruising on my face from all the flailing that had been going on.
Right.
Meanwhile, my spouse had nothing whatsoever. And because the law in Georgia is if they see that someone has been attacked, the other person either has to be arrested or leave the premises. And that's at the discretion of the officer, depending on the circumstances, right? And so they told her, "You have to leave the premises or we have to arrest you." That's how it is. He's the one with the marks. It's not you. We can't see any evidence of any abuse on you, but I'm looking at him, apparently I had a scratch right here, which was starting to, bruise, and there were scratches on the neck and in the whole 9 yards. And it was like, right. And that was really an eye-opening moment for me, because it's like, oh, man, are we this far apart that we can't talk, right? We just can't converse. And and as I look back at that, and it lasted a few more years, I waited till my youngest daughter was done with high school, and I told her, I said, "Look, I can't do this anymore." And she goes, "Neither can I." And it was as a man, I felt like that having a family unit was important. And my mom and dad stayed married to the day they both passed away. And I was hoping for the same thing. I probably just should have walked away at that point and, taken my kids with me again. Anyway, but, we rode it out to the end of high school and went our separate ways. But it really, as I look back at that, it was, I didn't feel worthy again. It's coming back to, like I mentioned way earlier when I got out of the drug scene. I didn't feel worthy, but now I was starting to stand up. I was standing up to protect my kids. I was standing up for what I believed in. It was like, you know what? I should have just stood the hell up and packed her shit and threw it out the door. If the roles would have been reversed, right? If I'd have been beating the shit out of her, that's what would have happened. They would have said, "Pack your shit, get out," But yeah, I think that's one of those. I don't want to call it toxic masculinity cliches,
No,
but
you're absolutely
if you think
right.
it all the way through it, it's what it is. It's
Exactly.
that toxic masculinity stereotypes that
Exactly.
we grow up with as young men, and they're just imbued. It's imbued in television, it's in music, it's everywhere. And you're like, this is how I'm supposed to be. No, it's not.
No.
You're not supposed to take any kind of abuse, just like she's not supposed to take any kind of abuse.
Yeah. And that's crazy because I was when you were saying that, I was going, I was thinking about that thin line. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the things in one of the support groups in my support groups, I try to get the men to understand there's a really, really thin boundary when it comes down to masculinity and toxic masculinity and
Yeah.
how quick it can go overboard, right? And
Yeah.
we as men, from the way that we're taught, we don't realize it. And that's the crazy part because we think that it's just the way, like you said before, it's just the way it's just the way it's
Yeah.
supposed to be, right? It's just the way I
Exactly.
am, right?
Yeah.
But then when you see someone like yourself now, it's commendable because now you found that boundary, and
Mm-hmm.
it's almost as if you realize that um the similarities and
Mm-hmm.
how easy it is to go across that boundary. So,
Yeah.
and
And the
realize that,
signals
yeah,
before
and
you
the
cross it,
signals,
right?
yes, the signals, the
Yeah.
anger, the depression, everything that comes along with that. And I often associate that with the stages of grief, right?
Hmm.
Because how it really just ties itself in, and
Yeah.
how easy as men, when we go, well, as a man I can't do this, as a man I can't do that. I tell everybody now, who the hell made these rules up?
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
Who made these rules up? Because whoever did this, you're messing us up.
Yeah.
And have been doing it for quite some time, right?
Here's a great little story with that. So growing up, I never saw my dad cry. And this is one of those things. Men don't cry, right? That's how
Yeah,
we grew up. Men don't cry, right? It just
exactly.
doesn't happen. And so when my daughter passes away, right, and I do the whole rock her to sleep thing and everything, that night, this is no joke, right? That night, so I left the hospital. Things are going on. My head is spinning, and we're in a college. We're in downtown Pittsburgh, right? So it's a college town,
Yeah.
literally a block away from the hospital. As we're walking towards the Ronald McDonald House, is this little coffee shop that used to be a theater, and they show films. And Speed 2 was playing. I'm like, you know
Okay.
what? I just got to disconnect. And I went in there and I watched Speed 2, right? Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock and action, 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 the whole movie.
Right.
And it was like, oh God, this is awesome. And I got out of the movie and it's like, okay, now I can think straight because I just totally had disconnected and my feelings went into the movie and it came out of it, right? So now I
Mhm.
can think, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to get with, a mortician. What are we going to do with the body? Are we going to bury? Are we going to, all these decisions. I started making them because now I had disconnected enough. So when I stepped out, I was ready to re-engage unfettered with emotion, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I go through, it was probably a year and a half. And there was a movie that, the first guy who played Batman, I can't think of his name. He also
Uh,
starred in Multiplicity.
um, Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. So
There we
Michael
go.
Keaton stars in this role of a movie where his son is sick and he takes hostages in an emergency room. Can't remember the name of the movie. And the movie's going along, and this is a year or two, maybe 2 years later, right?
Mhm.
And you're not quite sure where this is going. And then when he pulls the doctor and himself and his son into the surgery room, you realize his son needs an organ transplant, and
Yeah.
he's going to shoot himself in the head. And he told the doctor, you take my liver and you give it to my son. I started crying like a baby right there.
Mm.
Everything I had kept bottled up just came out.
Ooh.
Luckily I was watching it at home on DVD, right?
Right.
I
Right.
was, I was on the floor in the fetal position, just weeping like someone, like nothing, right? Like nothing ever. And I sat up afterward. My wife is there, my oldest daughter is like looking at me like, "Whoa, are you okay? What's going on?" And it just triggered me. You just that hospital scene, the organ, and that you shoot what? And I realized now, I didn't realize it then, that it was all those bottled up emotions, right?
Right.
The you can't cry thing. You can cry, and damn it, you should cry, and you should feel your feelings. It's okay to feel happy. It's okay to feel sad.
But you gotta
Okay,
grieve. You gotta
right?
grieve, man.
You're right. If
Oh
you
my
see a
God.
good-looking girl walking down the road, it's okay to go, hey, hey, that's right there.
Yeah.
So why isn't it okay, not okay to feel sad?
Exactly.
You know?
And especially after, like going through something like that, man, we are human
Yeah,
beings nonetheless. At the end of the day, man or female, we're human
yeah.
beings. We have these emotions. And I never understood, why is it okay that women can show their emotions, but when men do it, we considered weak. But
Yes.
yet,
And all
we,
the names that come with it, right?
and all the names that come with it, right? You know what I'm saying? You got to suck it up, put your head up, you're weak. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, can't do that. Right?
I don't get it.
No, no, I'm like you. No, I'm a human being.
Mhm.
And that's amazing because I can relate to you using that story as a way to as a trigger, because I have one, and I don't know if you've seen this movie or not. And if you have, man, I still have a hard time watching this, but it's called Beauty with Will Smith.
I don't know if I've seen
It
that.
is
I
an
love Will
excellent,
Smith.
yeah, it's an excellent movie, beautiful movie. So just like yourself, well, mine was a little bit shortly after my son had passed away. And I told my buddy, I told a friend of mine, I said, I'm gonna go take myself to the movies this weekend. And there was this movie by Will Smith, Collateral Beauty. I went, I'm gonna go see that. And I had done some research about what it was like, and I was going, I need to know how he did this. And it's funny how we can take a movie and go, I need to know, like, because we don't have anything to follow.
Right.
When it comes to men, right? And in a movie, beautiful movie, Will Smith loses his daughter.
Okay.
And him and his wife has separated. She became a grief group counselor. And he had this company that he was running, and it was, I don't want to give too much away from it, but if you ever get the chance to watch it, I would say watch it, man. That's my trigger.
Check it out.
That was my trigger, right? And I
Okay.
watched that, and I still have a hard time making it through that movie. It gets to a certain point, I'm just in tears, man, on the floor, balled up, crying, and going.
And here's what's really funny about that. We can watch movies like that when we're honest with ourselves,
right?
And it will trigger. We can watch a movie like Saving Private Ryan. Nothing. Right?
Yeah.
Death everywhere. Right? Guys coming off of a boat onto the ocean right there on, what is it, Tripoli or whatever, on D-Day, just being gunned down, thousands of them gunned down. And you're like, man, that was awesome. No, it wasn't. Right? Military man right here. It was not awesome. Right? I watched that movie, and, I didn't cry at that, but I definitely felt what they were trying to get us to feel was like, holy shit, these guys, 19, some of them, 17, 18, right? Stepping off there and just done. Thousands of families, their bloodlines ended right there. But we as men were like, that was
we got to
awesome.
keep going, right?
Wow, that's right. What a great action movie.
Masculinity.
But we're not allowed to feel. Exactly right. And that's anyway.
No, go ahead, man. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying. I'm giving. I love a good action movie, but
me too.
Here. I'll loop this around one more. While we're on movies, so the gentleman I told you was my brother from another mother. His name was Robbie.
Okay.
Well, Robert, but I call him Robbie, right? And we were. There was a couple of times where we got, we went our separate ways for a bit, 2, 3, 4 years. But the minute we pick up the phone and say, hey, what's up, man? I just want to catch up. It's like we were never apart.
Right.
Right. And if you've ever had one of those friends, man, hold on to them. Right. Because they are a blessing. I've had one like that, and I don't have one right now. But I tell you what, I wish every single day that Robbie was still here. Unfortunately, Robbie didn't take care of his health as well. And he was 4 years my junior, and he died 5 years ago. It totally unnecessary, right? And I still love him to death, right? I could smack him around for not taking care of himself. And I did a couple of times. Hey, dude, come on, you got to stop. You got kids. Your daughter's getting married. You're going to have grandkids. You want to be around, right? Damn it, you can't leave me alone. Yeah, and you say it like that, and it almost in jest, but that's the manly way to share your feelings. Right. Nah, screw that. You look them dead in the eye and say, dude, look, you're going to die. However you want to say it, but don't make it a joke. Just say it straight out, right from the heart. It's okay. Yeah. Right. And if they're really your brother, your man, your dude, whatever title you want to give it, they're going to listen.
Right.
Right. And if they start saying, shut up, then you check them. Say, no, dude, really, you got to take care of yourself. You got to stop doing this to yourself. I care about you. I love you. And why can't we as men say, I love you, man?
Exactly. Women say it all the time.
Thank you. It doesn't mean you want to jump in the bed and do nasty things with them. It means you freaking love them. Period. End of story.
And men we should have those conversations. That's crazy that you said that, because I just had this same group discussion in one of my support groups just a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did with the men, I said, hey, invite your best friend to come to the group.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the group, it was going, it started off was, how come I can't call you when I'm going through something?
Right.
How come you don't call me when you're going through something? Like, we watch our sisters, we watch our mothers and cousins, all our female friends do these same exact things. They're quick to pick up the phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this was by far probably one of the best groups I've ever had, because
Mm-hmm.
it had the friends on the other end while we on Zoom, and they had to
Yeah.
listen to them, and they had to answer
Yeah.
those questions. Why not?
Right.
By the end, man, we were having conversations that they were like, well, how come we couldn't have this conversation when I was going through this? Or how come you didn't tell me that you was feeling this way when you was going through that? Man, we as men have to start having these conversations, brother.
I tell you,
We do, man.
and
You know,
it's you, and I can't stress how important that is. And
right.
I'll
Yeah.
bring this home with the rest of this story, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we reconnected, especially after I had this nasty divorce, and it was ugly, right? It's one of those, we still don't talk. My youngest daughter just got married this past September, right? And of course, my daughter's one. Please come along. My now wife was invited as well. My now wife said, you know what? This is about her. I don't want to cause any kind of ripples,
Right.
right? She didn't want to be there and have my ex-wife just say the wrong thing. Anyway, so, where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So Robbie, since the divorce, we reconnected at a higher level. Was seeing him every year, maybe a couple of times a year, on the phone at least once every other week at the minimum, right? Dude, you got shit going on, pick up the phone, call me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Text me. I don't care, whatever it is. Text me. I'll drop everything. You're my blood, dude. You're my man. And he was going through this health thing, and I kept, dude, you got to go to the hospital. Right? These are not good signals. Right? You got to pay attention to the signals. He was, let's see, I'm 5'9". He was probably 2 inches shorter. He was right around my height, maybe an inch taller or an inch shorter, depend, how we were standing.
Or the shoes.
But yeah, exactly, right. But he was 120 pounds my senior. Right now, he was a stocky boy in the first place. When we first met, I was lean, mean. He was a little bit more wrestler build, right?
Okay.
My brother was too big. I'm telling you, he was probably pushing, 280, 300 pounds. He needed to drop 50 easy, right? And I'm always on the phone, trying to, hey, try this, do that, try this, do that. He's like, yeah. September, late August, early September, about 5 years ago, we're texting back and forth, and he's wrecking with his girl, right? And he said, I don't know what it is, man. And it wasn't his girl, but that's what he was thinking it was. And we've been there, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm feeling like shit. I'm pissed off at the world, and I think it's you. But when you ask the questions, it's like, no, I don't think that's what it is. Did she do anything? No, right? She's not having sex with you. Let's be honest. Sometimes that will piss us off, right?
Yeah.
No, that's not. That's all good too, right? Is she mad about your new purchase of that new gun, right? No, it's all good. What's going on, man? He says, I don't know. I feel like I'm at the end of my rope. I said, well, set the rope down.
Yeah.
Just set it down, right? Put the rope down, look around, and figure out what's going on, right? And he goes, oh, maybe I'll try that. The next morning, that was the end of the text. We went late into the night texting like that, right? And it was probably 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. The next morning, I'm up and getting ready to go to work, and I get a call from his ex-wife. Robbie's dead. What? Oh, it's hours ago, right? This is probably 8 o'clock in the morning. It was hours ago that I was talking to him on the phone. right? And I saved the text for years. It's like I feel like I'm at the end of my rope. Well, put the rope down, man. Call me. What's going on? How can I help? Right? I don't know. Maybe I'll try that. And that was it. He had a heart attack. His heart just stopped working. It got tired, and like I said,
Yeah.
the weight was a big issue, and and that's they pronounced death as a result of obesity. Acute obesity was the prognosis on there, and yeah, I was like, I was mad. I was crushed. Don't get me wrong. I was crushed, but I was pissed off because for years I've been telling him to take care of his health.
Mm.
And then I stopped. I caught myself because of the amazing woman that I'm now married to and said, you know what? I'm pissed off at myself. I'm pissed off at me because I didn't get him to do it. And she told me, you can't change anybody but yourself.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it, right? I preached to him. Dude, you gotta do it. I was mad at him, and then I was mad at me, and I was like, I couldn't have done anything about it anyway. He had to do it. But we go through it's the grieving process, right? We go through that, like, God, what could I have done different, and he'd still be here today? I don't know. I could beat myself up for years about that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. And the trigger for me, and now luckily I was able to process a lot of that because I had a healthy relationship going on. I'd done lots of looking back into the abyss. And ladies and gentlemen, listening to this episode anywhere, if you've gone through shit in your life and you haven't sat down and turned and looked back into that abyss and figured out A, why it happened, and B, what lessons you can glean from it, good, bad, or ugly, please take a minute, take an hour, take a day, take a weekend, and do that. Because until I did that, I kept repeating the same damn things, right?
Man.
And once, like I told you, I was like, hey, I wasn't worthy. I wasn't worthy. And you realize, you know what? I am worthy. I got to stand the hell up, man up, like they say, and
man up, just in a different way, man.
There it is, right? Yeah. And that if that means crying, let them cry. I did process a lot of it, but, and I'm going to come full circle here to the Fast and Furious movie. We were talking about movies earlier.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
we know about Paul Walker, right?
Yes.
My man Paul Walker and what's his name? The bald guy.
Vin Diesel.
Triple X. Vin Diesel. They're brothers, right? They started off in the beginning of the franchise. They were enemies, but they were tight afterwards, right? By movie 2, they were brothers from another mother. And the movie that they were filming at this time was the one where Paul Walker passed away in that horrible accident, and they had to change how the movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
All right. So they did the end of the movie knowing that Paul Walker is not going to be at any of the future movies, and they're driving down the road, much like the first movie, right? Remember, they're the very end of the movie. They're driving down the road together, and they went across the train, and he gave him the car, blah blah blah. But in this movie, they're driving down the road together, and all of a sudden there's this aerial view, and they go their separate ways.
Right.
And then Vin's talking about, I love you, my brother. You'll always be there for me. I started bawling like a baby all over again. And I thought, wait a minute, I processed this. Well, yeah, I had, but it still hurts. And that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen that movie probably 3 or 4 times. And every single time I'm good until that last scene when they go their separate ways. And you're like, God damn it. Like, how am I still crying? Because I still love him and I still miss him.
There you go.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay to hurt. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that it's okay.
No, man,
to go through your stuff.
Man, speak the truth, man, because it's definitely true. It's okay to hurt, man. It's okay not to be okay. And
thank you. There it is.
It's okay not to be okay, man. And getting that point across to men is so hard. But it's, it's starting to open up some doors. And men are starting to understand now that, you're going to have these things that happen to you. Don't hold it back. It doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you more of a man. because it
That's what I
helps you
think.
tap into your human nature of who you actually are as a human being. And guess what? There's another level to manhood that don't involve the toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace that. Embrace what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace these conversations, embrace these movies that bring back those memories, the songs, right? Songs and music.
Don't get started on songs, man.
Oh man, look, hey man, look, I can tell you stories because my mother, and I know you could probably relate to this too, but my mother was a huge Motown fan when I was a kid,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so my mother was an alcoholic at the time, and her
Mm-hmm.
drink was Canadian Miss. And
Okay.
so every time I would come home, she have a little glass with a little ice and her little drink in there. And once in a while, when the family was over, she had this one song called "Me and Mrs. Jones."
Yes.
Right? Yeah,
I
right,
know the
right.
song.
And my mom
I
would
know the
sit up
song.
there with her drink, and she would just snap her fingers and everything. Right? So
I can see it.
yeah, you could just see it, right? You can see it. She just sitting at the table, just enjoying herself, shaking her head and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember when she passed away, that song played in my head for so long. And then one day I just had to turn it on. I just had to
Mm-hmm.
find it on YouTube, put it on the speaker. And I remember sitting back in my chair at that moment. And I can just imagine sitting at the table with my mother. And I just
Yeah.
started bawling, man. I just started bawling, right?
Yeah.
And just remembering those childhood moments with my mother and my father. His thing was Anthony Hamilton,
Okay.
right? So that was his favorite thing. His whole album, my dad enjoyed. So my dad passed away almost 10 years now, along with my little brother, and so I remember sitting back and I just had this playlist with just old time music and then Anthony
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton and just had it going in between and a few other songs. And I remember, man, for probably good 2.5, 3 hours of just listening to this. I was just set back on the couch. I cried so much that I thought I was all cried out. Then I was wrong.
Nope. Nope.
I was wrong, man. Those memories come flooding back, but it was the best feeling in the world to allow myself to feel, to grieve,
Yeah.
to remember, to smile, because now the music sounds a little bit different to me now. I may have a tear or whatever, but I think now I remember more of the memories,
Yes.
of everyone. And they're no longer tears of pain or anything. They're tears of, man, I was honored
Yes.
to have had these moments with
Grateful.
these, yeah, grateful, humble. And it always puts me in a place of humility. And
Mm-hmm.
if any man out there, if you've never been in a place of humility, try listen to a song that reminds you of a best friend.
Yeah.
And talking to, hearing about your Robbie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a Richard. So both rounds along the same lines, both R's, right? But
Yeah.
Rich he was my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had plenty throughout the time, well, not plenty. Best friends only come once in a lifetime, or
Right.
a few. I've been pretty fortunate. Rich, he was the guy who got me into motorcycles, right?
Okay.
And we had been talking about getting a place together, a nice little 3-bedroom, because there was another guy too. We were all best friends, and we were going, you know what? We're the only ones that get along with each other. It only makes sense for us to get a place. And
Right.
and Richard ended up one night leaving home, well, coming back to come see me. He had gotten an argument with his girlfriend, took his motorcycle, ran into the back of a semi.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude.
So that's why I said I can relate to that, man. He was the dude I used to talk to all the time. Like, he was like my
Yeah.
little brother, but my best friend, and all in the same sense.
Mm-hmm.
And when you
Right.
said that, man, my heart started beating. It was like, you remember, don't you? I was like, yeah, I do, man.
Yeah.
And so, man,
Yeah.
when seeing you take your glasses off, I don't know if you noticed, but I was
I'm
trying to keep mine, trying to wipe
be
them
all
off.
cool and everything.
Yeah, trying to be all cool and everything. Like, I don't want to just, but man, shoot.
And I think one other thing about that is sometimes these memories, and well, two things. One, feeling these memories and going through that emotional roller coaster, right? Go ahead, right? Ride the roller coaster, throw your hands up in the air, scream in anger and in joy and pissed off. Go through the emotions, because I think if you don't, the memories are going to hang around in the more negative side.
Right.
Yeah. You know, my dad drank a little too much alcohol, and after he got out of the military, I think I would label him an alcoholic. Until the doctor said, dude, you better chill out. It's going to kill you. And, Mom and I both, dude, I'm telling you right now, right? Probably the first time I told my dad, look, you and me will go outside over this one. Anyway, but, I think my memories would have been completely different. I would have been pissed off about him getting out of the service when he did. Why did he get out of the service? Why did he put me in Southern California? We all had a good life. I could have been all like that, and if I hadn't gone through the emotions with Robbie, well, why didn't he get on a diet 10 years ago? Like I told him to. You'd have these negative connotations because
you froze up on me.
I can sit. There he is.
There you are.
Yeah.
I lost you a little bit. You froze up, but we're back online now. I lost you
cool.
Where you were talking talking about your dad.
Okay. Like about my dad, you could label him as an alcoholic after the military time frame.
Yes, right there.
Yeah, right. So and if I hadn't process when he passed away, some time ago, I would be left with all these negative connotations. Well, why did you get out of the military when you did? We had a great life, and you got out of the military, and I ended up hanging out with all these. I could have blamed all this stuff and had all this negative memories,
right?
But because I went ahead and processed everything, and here's the thing: when you let yourself feel it, you feel it for this long. Right. You go through it, right? Like you said, I thought I was all cried out. I wasn't, right? But it's a lot shorter period of time. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month. But if you don't, it's years, because it just sits in there and it festers, right?
Oh, man.
I could have been mad at Robbie if I hadn't let my emotions go. And I could have been mad and say, why didn't you start exercising like I told you to? Right. And I would still be mad today, because I'd be pissed off that he's gone. And I know why he's gone, because he was overweight, and he was overweight because he didn't take care of his health. And that's why he's gone. And I told, right. You got all this mad inside.
Yeah.
Where if you just fucking let it out. Sorry, but
no other way to say it, man. No,
you just let it out.
Yeah.
And so that you can process it. And if you do that, like you were saying, now you're like, yeah, I can remember Mom just grooving to her music, right?
Yeah, right.
The drink was there, but you're more focused on this than this, right?
Exactly.
You're sticking with those happy memories. I got so many amazing memories of the ones I love, because I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to remember. Was there shit in my life? Yeah, I know there was. I caused some of it. They caused some of it. Whatever. I'm worried about, hey, here's all the good things. I had an amazing set of parents who were there when I needed them every single time. It wasn't a time I ever went to my parents and they said, no. There was one time I ran away from home. I ran all the way to Paris, California. I had you there for a second.
You did. I was like, you went to Paris. Here we go again, traveling.
No, I went to, Paris was right outside of Hemet, California, where a lot of things were cooked, my drug days, right?
Yeah.
And so when I came, this was before I joined the service. So that's how close I was to getting in the drug scene way back then. But when I came back home, my dad, I called him up. I said, Dad, here's what happened. I didn't come back home. I had borrowed my girlfriend's mother's car. I say borrowed.
We know what that means.
She wasn't aware that I had it at the time. But and I was sitting out in front of one of the schools. I was, still should have been in school, but I was sitting in front of the schools waiting for one of my friends to come out to give her a ride home in this borrowed car. He says with air quotes. And so because I was sitting in front of the school, I looked a little conspicuous and someone called the cops and said, hey, this dude's sitting in front of the school. Cops come over and pulled, they're like, can we see your ID? And which was all fine. Can we look in the trunk? Sure. Yeah. Me open the trunk. And in the trunk were 3 pairs of nunchucks and probably 36 throwing stars, shurikens, right? I was, like I said, I was a big martial arts guy. I've been training martial arts for a long time, which at that time were completely illegal to have in California. You weren't allowed to have them. Now, you could own them and have them in your home. You can have them in a dojo, and you could have them in direct transportation to and from those 2 places. Clearly, I was not going or coming from either one of those places. Right. And so they said, you're under arrest. and then they ran the place and said, oh, is this your car? No, it's my girlfriend's car. And they, they called her up and, she's like, no, my car's out in the driveway. They're like, no, ma'am, it's not. She didn't even know it's gone at the time, right? Anyway, so here it is. They take me down there, down to the. I'm still underage, and they're saying, okay, well, you're either going to get your parents to come pick you up, or you go into the system. Ooh, okay, Dad, can you come get me? No. What?
What?
Where do you go? You're like, hello? Is this thing working? Right? And I said, Dad, and he hands the phone to my mom. And that never happened before, right? Mom goes, he said no. I said, he's kidding, right? I said, ha, this is funny. I'm scared shitless, Mom. Someone tell him this is not funny. She goes, he's not fucking around. That's what she said. I'm like, oh shit. And Mom, they're going to put me into a foster home. Yeah, we know. Yeah. They called us and told us. Okay. Yeah. What's going on, Mom? Dad thinks you need to get your shit together. Maybe this will help you do that. Okay. So they take me up towards about halfway up the coast of California. I can't remember the name of the city, the little podunk place. Someone's home, and the rules were very simple. You stay here, you do chores and everything like that. And, your PO will come checking on you a couple of times until you're 18, until your parents come get you. Well, I was under the impression my parents would never come and get me. So I was going to be there for a couple of years.
Right.
There were no fences. And the lady and her husband who ran the place said, look, if you leave, we're not chasing you down. And this lady must have been 60 some years old. She wasn't going to chase me down if I was running anyway, right? I'm 16. I'm gone. But she's like, we're not going to chase you down. If you're not where you're supposed to be, we pick up the phone, we call and tell them, they arrest you, and you go into juvenile hall. I did not want to go into juvenile hall.
Right.
I'm gonna say it like it is. I was a white boy in Southern California. That is not where I wanted to be. No, okay. Yeah. And I was a little guy. I was 4'3" in the 9th grade. So I wasn't going to fight my way out of that one. And I was honest about that.
He said, nope.
Anyway, and the only group I could have associated with that could have protected me, I wanted nothing to do with. All right.
Right.
It's not happening. Oh, so, yeah. So I stayed on premises, and I was a good boy, and I was in the middle of flipping nowhere. I had no idea where I was at. And, once a week would call Mom. Hey, Mom, how's it going? Everything's going okay here. And I didn't ask for probably 2 months. 2 months in, I was like, dude, I don't know what's going on in my life. Right? I gotta do something. I can't do this. This is not working. I'm one of those guys. I gotta be doing something, right? Even if it's not good, I want to be doing something.
Right.
And I finally called my dad. I said, Dad, please, can I come home? I says, whatever rules you want to make, I'll do them. Right. You tell me what I need to be doing. He goes, you know the fucking rules, right? You know the fucking rules. You broke them. I'm like, oh, damn. He says, you didn't just broke them. You stole from somebody. right? You stole it. They trusted you with it over and over and over again, and you just went over there and took it. Bullshit, right? He's just laying it. I'm like, who is this guy on the other end of this phone? Usually it was my mom that was delivering. My mom was like the rule. You did it. Dad was the enforcer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Mom was just here's the thing, pissed off at you. You fucked up, right? No, this time it was Dad, and Dad was dropping bombs on me. I was like, ho, ho, ho. But in the same tone, I realized just how bad it was.
Right.
Because Dad was delivering, and Dad never did that. You're right, sir. I totally get it. I understand. Please, can I come home? I'll do this. And I started telling him, here's my plan. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Right. I really want to work on cars. Robbie's good on the engines. I'm great on the bodies. Here's my plan. And I laid it all out for him. He's like, whoa, you can do that? Well, yeah, Dad, I'm really good at it. Okay, well, we'll try that. Right. And so they came up, brought me home. And it wasn't all this. All right, now remember, here's all the rules.
Mm-hmm.
I walked in and I put my stuff in the room, and I came out there. I said, so do we need to talk about anything? Do we need to, discuss this at all? I was scared out of my pants. I must have been shaking like a leaf on a breezy Sunday morning, right? And my dad looked over and says, my dad looked at me, and like I can tell you, my big man, right? And I was a little guy. He stood up, he looked at me, he goes, I don't know. Do we? No. I got
we got the rules.
I don't think so.
We got the rules.
I got the rules, right? But it was just a way of saying, do we need to talk about it? No. I think we talked about it really well on the phone. He goes, I think so too. Then he sat back down, and it was like nothing ever happened. So I was thankful for that they didn't browbeat me every single day and make me feel like crap for a really bad mistake, right? I was groveling on my phone, right? I was on my knees, please, 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 please. And I came up with a plan, and I delivered that plan. He's like, wow, you could do that, right? And that made me think completely different about things for the rest of my life. When things went bad, I faced them like I did my dad, and I had a plan, right? If we go back to when Krista passed away, right? I went into the movie and I came out, I had a plan. I faced it. I had to shut my feelings off for a minute, but that's what I did every single time. When shit goes really crazy, it's like, okay, let's process this, right? Where are you at fault? Look at the man in the mirror, just like the song, right? Right? The only person you got to answer to is the man in the mirror, right? And then, okay, man up, right? Stop being a little bitch, right? And it own it, and then have a plan. There it is. That's life in general.
There you go.
Mic drop.
which leads me to the next question, man. Because you have a podcast, a Dark Horse Entrepreneur, and so I'm listening to everything and I'm like tying it all together. Is that when did you start podcasting, and what was the reasoning behind it?
I started podcasting before podcasting was cool. I was podcasting in 2007. I started my first one on a website called Blog Talk Radio.
Okay.
And I was trying to share the benefits of the personal development journey that I had gone through after Kristen had passed away. I was like, oh my God, these things are so amazing. Everyone needs to know about it. You know what? They do.
Right.
Those that want to hear it, they're already listened to it. But it was another channel for me to, I'm a big fan of learn, do, teach, right? You learn something, you do it to reinforce the skills. But then if you teach someone, man, you really are driving those things even deeper into yourself, because usually you're engaging someone that maybe learns in a different fashion than you. So you've got to teach a little different, which means you really got to know your shit. Otherwise it's not going to happen. Right. So I started that as a voice. And it went from there to a different podcast. It was called Success DNA, and that was a Monday through Friday podcast. And I tried to, well, I actually did. I flipped it into a monetization tactic. So on Monday, I would drop, deliver some content and say, oh, and by the way, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, here are the things we're going to talk about. On Tuesday, we're going to talk about this, and Thursday, we're going to talk about that, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way you got that content is if you paid me $9 a month. And then you got access to the premium content on Tuesday, Wednesday, and so forth. And did pretty good with that for, it did well for about 2-3 years. And then all the things that were happening in my former marriage started boiling to that head that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And I really felt like such a phony getting on the mic and saying, here's how to make yourself have a great life. Meanwhile, I'm going through all the crap I briefly shared with you earlier, right?
Right.
So I hung up my microphone like, you know what? Before I can continue to do this path, I need to get my shit together. I need to be able to look at the man in the mirror, right?
Mm-hmm.
And be able to be honest with myself, which took a couple of years. I got to go through that divorce, ended up finding this amazing woman. We get married. And I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I'm not perfect. I got stuff I'm still dealing with, but you know what? I'm in a much better place, and I can get back on the microphone, share what I've been through, share where I'm at, and share where I'm going, and take people along with me on the journey. So that started the Dark Horse Entrepreneur just last July, and it's doing pretty well. I'm pretty proud of it. We've hit the top 20 in 4 countries, and we hit the top 21 here in the United States just last month. So I'm going to toot my horn on that one.
Hey, man, Tootie, man, congratulations, man. And, congratulations on the success and taking the journey and building something, taking what you've learned and actually, putting it out there. Normalizing these conversations that we as men should be having in the first place.
Right.
Yes,
absolutely.
Putting your story out there and man, I listened to you, man. I was just going, wow. I'm still at awe because it's just like, even though we've come from different mothers, man, it's just like we've been walking this parallel walk. You just doing it in a different area. That's it. And
Right.
then come together, just life just is beautiful that way. It just comes together and sitting here and watching our paths intercross and listening to everything, man. It's just like, I don't know, man. It's something fulfilling about that. It's something humbling.
Yeah. I feel you. I mean, that's in the podcast I do on the Dark Horse Entrepreneur, I set out originally, I was just going to do interview episodes, right? I was going to, bring these folks on that are ahead of me in their journey, or maybe are next to me in their journey, but they're in a different arena, right? To share their story. I always want to hear their story. Don't just come on and give me your tips and give me your freebie and move on. No. I want to connect with you. I want to feel you. Because for me, half of the entertainment and the education is the journey, right? What have you been through, right? I can see how successful you are, John, Joe, Jane, right? But I know you weren't always successful, right?
Exactly.
You've been through some shit.
Exactly.
The people that are listening to my podcast, they're going through their shit right now, or they just come out of it yesterday or last year, and they're feeling like, damn, I just got that kick to the head like I had, right?
Yeah.
I can't do this or I can't do that. But when they hear someone's story, Tiffany gets on my podcast, and I was unprepared for this. She tells her story about miscarriage after miscarriage, about a gentleman who had proposed to be her husband, but had a whole nother family over on the side, and had brought her over to Australia as part of this thing, and now left her. And what? She got to the point where she was standing at the curb in downtown, I believe it was Sydney, and a bus was coming, and she considered for a moment stepping off. That's how bad it got for her. right? And I
Mm.
was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And that's when I realized, all right, these stories really need to be told, because now she's doing amazing things,
Right.
helping people. She's an NLP person, right? She helps you, with your mindset and get your head right and release all those things inside you that are keeping you. She took me back to a moment when I was like, oh, what was I, 12 or
Oh
13?
my God.
Right? Because she
Right.
was just asking me these series of questions. And she goes, well, go back to that moment. No, really, close your eyes, pick yourself up, just go back to that moment. And it was this little bitty moment where I felt slighted by my mom. I didn't even realize it. I was like, what? Really? But I was like weeping as I was talking about this and realized, holy shit, that moment is when things that 1 degree to the wrong side. That's where it started. And I'm like, oh my God. Well,
Exactly.
now I cleared that out. I'm feeling a little bit better about shit, right? So, oh my God, I don't have to worry about that. So here I was already thinking I had my head game on tight. She's like, nah, let me show you something. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
Right?
man.
Your
Oh
game,
yeah.
you think your game's on lock, right? I'm like, yeah, my game's on lock. You did, but yeah.
Yeah.
Now she
Haven't
didn't
even
do all that
scratched the
on the air
surface.
with me. Yeah, she goes, you're doing good, right? But there's still things, what's holding you back? Because she saw, like, wow, you've got all this amazing stories and all this great ideas. Why aren't you doing this or doing that? I'm like, I don't know. Should you want to talk about it? Right? And you're like, holy crap. And then you have other people. I had a gentleman just on this week's show, Mike Shizniak, right?
Okay.
He reached the top of his game, right? He was a programmer, doing Java code and engineering, and graduate and everything. He had all the trappings. He had the cars, he had the money, the big bank accounts, he had the downtown Manhattan apartment. This is no exaggeration. It's what he's telling me, right?
Mm.
He says, but I don't know. It's just I felt like shit. I'm like, wait a minute. Why? He goes, because I always felt guilty when I wasn't working. Whoa. How many
Whoa.
guys out there have felt guilty when you're not working?
Oh shoot.
That's a timeout right there.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you feel
I'm
guilty
right
when
there
you're
with
not,
you.
stop. There's something going
Oh,
on. There's something from your past that's telling you your ass isn't working. You're going to do right. That's what we do, right? We're the breadwinners. No. Stop. You gotta care for yourself, right? And this threw him, this guilt actually threw him into a health issue. Called it anxiety or whatever. I'm sure there's some clinical term. I don't know what it is, but
right.
it threw him to the point where it was debilitating. And he had to get out of the environment. And since then, he's learned so much about the how to be really productive, not working 87 hours, but being truly productive and all that goes with that, that
Mhm.
he now runs a high performance coaching and consulting agency, right? Does he have
Wow.
the same level of bank account? Don't know. Didn't ask him. It doesn't matter. He's happy, right?
Right. That's a hell of a concept, right? Being happy. Being happy in your life, man. I think I had someone on and they said the same thing. And I totally agree. If you're not happy, why are you doing it? Why are you
Who
doing it?
cares?
Right?
Yeah.
Who cares, right? And I think a lot of times, like I've been in jobs where, I've really excelled, but I wasn't happy. And
Mm-hmm.
I had everything that you can ever think of, for I had the cars, I had
Yep.
the house, I had the women, I had whatever I wanted. I could do whatever I wanted at that time,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, right? But I wasn't happy. And people are going, dude, you lived the life of a rock star. I said, no,
Right.
I lived the life of a drug dealer. And they went, but you work and you make X amount of money. I said, yeah, but I still live the life of a drug dealer. Think about it. Nothing's really changed except for the way I make my money now.
Yeah.
I have the women, I have the cars, I have everything that I want. I could do whatever I want at any given time that I want to do it and not have to worry about it. I live the life of a drug dealer, but I'm not happy.
Yeah.
The crazy part about it wasn't until I lost everything that I became happy.
Everything.
Everything. I lost the women.
Yes.
I lost the cars. I lost the house. I lost the money. I had nothing. And I was the happiest I had ever been in my whole entire life, because it was something about that
I
rock
feel you.
bottom, right? It was
Yeah.
something about that rock bottom that was so
Yep.
satisfying to me. And I went, okay, now that I don't have this over here, I've done this over here. I wonder what I can do from this point. And it was
Mm-hmm.
the work, it was the grind, it was the hustle, it was digging deep down inside of what was truly calling me. But it wasn't until I got to that moment of all the losses and tragedy to where I began to allow myself to grieve, just like yourself. I
Yeah.
began to allow myself to feel those emotions. And once I really started digging into the memories, I realized there was another level.
Mm,
There was another level that I wanted to
right.
explore. And when I
Uh-oh.
did, it took me on this journey. Oh, we freezing up. Can you still hear me? Okay. It'll unfreeze here real soon.
You still with me?
Yeah, I'm still with you. I can still hear you. You just froze up on me. I think I'm froze up on your end too. Okay. It's gonna take a second, I guess.
There he is.
Yep, there we are. There we
Uh-oh.
are.
You were at there was another level.
Yeah. Okay. So, when I realized that it was another level and it didn't have to deal with all the stress, all the
Yeah.
expectations of what I was supposed to be, I realized there was another level of freedom. It was a level
Mm-hmm.
of freedom of, I've gone through this, but where can I take this now? So now,
Yeah.
instead of looking at everything, easy come, easy go. I've been there, done that. I'd rather work for it. It's a sense of, the grind, the hustle, the hard work.
Yeah.
I love being inside of there. I love exploring different areas of myself and grief and the journeys because like you said, every journey that, every person who's become successful and happy, like you said, it's the stories of how they got there.
Yes.
Love that. And
Right.
looking back,
Yes.
like you said, you have to look back on yourself to re-examine, re-explore, and rediscover who you are as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And then, finding your passion within that, I think
Yeah.
was the key to it.
Yeah.
And I found
I
my
think one of the
passion. Yeah. No,
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good. I was gonna say I think one of the biggest problems is that people have to hit rock bottom
Yeah.
before they even look. Because
Yeah.
when they're riding high, when they're riding that wave and everything's going great, they're like, oh man, I don't want to rock this boat. This is awesome, right? Got
Hmm.
all the money, I got all the women, I got all the cars, and you're like, "Oh, well, why aren't I happy? Who cares? I'm going to keep doing it, right?
Right.
I don't
Right.
want to mess this up. No, man, mess it. Yeah, same thing here, right? It wasn't until you know, face planted, bam, right down on the
Man.
ground. I'm like, dude, what am I going to do? And, each time, it was a little different, whether it was the drugs or the loss of the daughter or the messy divorce. It was a different version of the same thing looking back. Now,
Right.
when I went through the messy divorce, the one thing I did is I pretty much had lost, I'll say everything. I still had a few things, but everything was gone. And it was a whole new world, right? Because now I'm single on top of
Hmm.
that.
Mm.
I hadn't been single for 20 years, and I hadn't been alone for probably 30. I always had someone in my world, right?
Right.
A significant other. So now this was new territory. One of the first things I did was sit down and write I was mad journaling back then, right? Oh, it was a mad journal.
Oh yeah.
Wrote down, you know what? I'm not going to engage in another serious relationship until I meet a woman that meets the following criteria. Now, once I got past all the external male stuff, she's got to be blonde, she's got to be skinny, she's got to be this, she's got to be that, right?
Mhm.
Once I got back past the material things, I started going, okay, now what else is there? I wanted her to be intelligent. I wanted her to have this, heart. I wanted her to be okay with me being me. That was like number one.
Right.
Because if you ain't okay with being me, check the door right there, right? Because I'm going to be me. I'm sick and tired of being the poster boy for fatherhood, the poster boy for manliness, the poster boy for corporate America, man. Forget all that. I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
Right. And if you like it, come on along. We're going to have a good time. If you don't, come on along. We're going to have a good time. But there's the door when you're done.
There you go. There you go.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the same thing I decided with the whole entrepreneurial journey.
Okay.
I'm still going to be me. I'm not going to cut my hair. I'm not going to shave my beard off. I'm not going to put on a suit and tie. I've done the suit and tie thing. I'm done with it.
Right.
That's fine. I'm not going to be all scraggly, but I'm just going to be me. I got my polo shirt on, right? I'll keep my stuff neat and trim, what have you. And, every once in a while, a curse word's going to drop out. If you don't like them, there's the door. I'm sorry.
I love it, man. I love it.
This is me and my job. This is me and my world. You came into my world, into my sphere of influence. Welcome. And I want to help you any way I can.
Right.
Right. I'm here to serve, period. However, if you want to change me to serve you, that's not going to work. You need to find someone that serves you the way you want to serve. And for me, I think that's the best thing anyone out there can do for others.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to step into your world and change you to make them happy, they probably shouldn't be in your world.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's if you don't want to change, right? If you don't want to change, the only person that can change you is you. Right. So if someone else is trying to do, how many marriages have you just seen go completely off the rails because one person is trying to change the other person?
You know what?
Too many.
I learned from my friends' marriages and relationships. That's why I'm still single, because I was going, you know what? I seen what you just went, right? I joke about it, but in a way it's true, right? Because I've seen really good relationships, and I was going, man, I would love to have a relationship like that, right? But every good relationship has dark secrets. And as I got to know my friends, like I started noticing their dark secrets and everything. I was like, so you just put on the front when you're out here in front of people, but at home, you guys are completely just animals, right? You constantly at each other's throat. How are you doing this? So after a while, I started looking at everything. I go, I learned from you. This is why I'm still single, right? And but that was my excuse. Now I'm kind of stuck. Now I'm kind of stuck because I'm going, well, everything that I've learned in life about relationships, I think I'm kind of messed up right now.
And what's really sad is it doesn't help that a lot of poor relationship management is fostered on TV and in everywhere, right? I mean, it's nothing for a comedian to get on stage and just bash marriage and bash relationships and bash women, and for a female comedian to get on stage and bash men and do the same thing. And then you see relationships on television, you're like, good God, I would never trust that guy. Right. It's almost like a standard. It's like, well, God, you treated me like that, I'd be like, bounce, I'm out. Once upon a time, I probably had a completely different view. I know my wife and I, my current wife, we see, we watch some good television, and we'll look at a relationship. We just look at each other and like, yeah, I don't think so.
I love that.
You talk to me like that, and I'd be like, you're out. I'm going. I'm sorry.
Like, we're gonna have words, and then you're gonna sleep on the couch for the rest of the night if I don't put you out in the yard, and then we'll figure it out from there. We'll figure it out from there.
It's
right?
like if a guy comes up to you and says, my wife told me, why don't you just go to sleep? Okay, that's a scary thought, right? But okay, well, why was she like that? That's not all her, right? It's 50.
Yeah, that has something to do with you too.
That's what it is. Who's the one constant in all of your relationships?
You.
I'm just saying. And
I did,
that's
I saw what you did there. No, but you're absolutely right. I have been the one constant, and I think for a lot of times I've been just afraid. I've been so used to people leaving me, so I always
sure. Oh yeah.
right. So I going back on it now, you point the finger at me. I have to take accountability for that. And I'm a huge believer in
Yep.
being accountable for myself. So I've had to come to the realization that maybe I was the toxic one. I had learned all these negative things from people. But
Mhm.
let's be honest, right? I am the one constant. Like with anything that we do, we're the one constant. We can't blame everybody, right? Even though some situations you can go and be like, yeah, no, this I
Right.
knew
Yeah.
this wasn't going to
I'll
work.
eh,
Yeah. So it's, looking back on it now, I can honestly go, maybe it wasn't all them.
yeah.
Just,
Well, and I do this too. So when I'm pointing at you,
oh
there's like
no,
three fingers pointing back.
I'm
But
already know
that's
about. I just wanted to touch base on there because I understand,
listen.
like, and to say it across here, a lot of men may look at this and go, "Oh no, I'm not." No, no, maybe you are. Maybe you're the toxic one in
it,
the relationship, right? And I
and
say that, with responsibility for myself,
yes.
because I can't
And
say that to someone else and not look back on myself and go, I
there
was
you
that
go.
guy.
Yeah.
It
And
wasn't all
it
that
might
fault.
not even be toxicity, right? You might just go into a relationship with a preconceived notion that this isn't going to work. And so
Yes,
the little things that you're
yes,
doing are slowly chipping it away to make you right. Hmm. You may not
exactly.
want it. I want it to work. No, dude, I really want it to work. No, no, no. No,
No,
you
you
don't.
didn't. You don't.
Going into it with this preconceived notion,
Hmm.
right? And as long as you do that, and sometimes we pick someone because of that preconceived notion. Well, I know this is never going to work, but damn, she is smoking hot.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know? So if it's not going to work, I'm going to at least enjoy it while I can. Yeah, well, that's not a great idea either.
No, it's not. It is. I say I'm laughing because as soon as you said it, I went, God dang it all. How did he know?
I When I started dating my current wife, I had to check myself, and she was very, very patient with me about this. You get through the first, the dating phase when you're always on your best behavior,
Right.
but
Yeah.
you're still letting parts of you out. And she is very intuitive. She knows flags when she sees them. She's like, "Whoa, wait a minute, that was a flag," right?
Mm.
Um, and but when we got through the dating phase, she was very patient with me with some of my preconceived notions because I got out of I'll call it a toxic relationship. So some of my walls were still up.
Hmm.
They may not have been all the way up here, but they were certainly like I was peeking over the top of them, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, you don't have to say it like that to me. I get it. Oh, okay, that's cool. She was like, just be you. If you aren't comfortable with it, then it's okay. I was like, man, I had been living 20 years with, oh, you wanted to do this? Well, then let's go do it. No, no. If you don't want to do it, say you don't want to do it.
Right.
I don't want to drag you along and all of a sudden you're walking behind me going, I don't want to, you're all grumpy and stuff. And then a fight ensues. Just say it. It's okay. And it's like, wow, you mean we can communicate with each other? We can just talk and it doesn't have to escalate. The first time we got into a difference, I don't even want to call it a fight, it was a difference. My voice instantly went up in volume because that's what I was used to. Right? I was in defense. My voice goes up because I want you to hear me. And the only way I know you can hear me is I have to talk over you because you won't shut up long enough for me to talk. That was my old relationship.
Right.
So I instantly started to follow that pattern. She said nothing. She got absolutely quiet. I'm like, you're not responding. She goes, I don't like how you're talking to me. What? Nice. Someone that will stand up for themselves and say, all right,
Yes.
this isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
This didn't work. I had to check that was her just being polite and saying, you got to check yourself. You know, uh, just that. just-
Yeah. Bring it down a little bit.
So I brought the voice down. We can we can disagree. We don't have to raise our voices.
Yeah.
Right? We can just talk to each other. Oh, damn. That's right. We are adults.
Mm. Man, I love that, brother. I love that, man. Man, if man, we could talk forever about this. We could definitely talk forever about this.
I know we could.
Oh my God. We're gonna have to do another part of this, right? You know what I'm saying? So
Anytime, brother, you let me
man.
know.
Hey, and vice versa, man. So with anybody out there after sharing your story, if you had any encouraging words to men and women out there, what would you tell them?
You know what? I think the biggest thing, and I say this all the time, and it almost comes out being cliche, is be you, right?
Mm,
That's it. It's all about being you. Now, it's a little harder than it sounds because sometimes you've been someone else for so long that
right,
you forgot who you are. All right. So the first step of being you is to sit down and figure out who the fuck you are. Who am
right,
I?
right.
We hear, was it Brandon Bouchard who wrote the book about Know Your Why,
Oh my
which is
God.
great, right? And
Yes.
it's a great book, and I want you to know your why. But if your why doesn't align with your who, you're going to be you're going to have all the money, you're going to have other things, but you're going to be like, well, I'm not happy. What's going on?
Right.
Know who you are, right? Ask yourself the tough questions. Look at the man in the mirror, and then once you know who you are, then just be you, right? And then I think I'll add number 3 to that. And I'm going to over deliver, right?
Okay, come on.
Is and where do you want to set your? I'm a goal setter, right? I'm all about. I have a goal, and everyone should have goals, whatever they are. If
Right.
your goal is just to get up and not drink tomorrow because that's what you're dealing with, cool. That's your goal. Not drink tomorrow. Focus on that, right? If your goal is, you know what, I need to find a new job or I need to make $1 million, whatever your goal is, plan your goal out. Now, when you know what your goal is, the next question is now you know who you are, you know your why, you're being yourself. Now, who do you need to become to reach that goal?
Mm,
Because, my friend, if you haven't reached that goal today, you're not the person that deserves that goal yet.
there you go.
You can be that person. All right. You just have to start taking those steps. So it's little at 1 degree every day, right? To become the person that is worthy and that has earned the goal that you desire. Be you, right? Find out who you are, be you, and then become the person you want to be to reach that goal that you have for the future.
Man, I love that. I love that. So, tell everybody where they can contact you when you drop your podcast and everything, and tell everybody
Sure.
how they can support you as well.
Absolutely, Tony. I appreciate that.
Of course,
You can
man.
find me at darkhorseschooling.com. Everything's all there, all the socials. I'm very active on Facebook. I do lives a number of times a week. I got a Facebook group, but everything right to the website. You can reach me out from there. If you want to reach me on a more personal level, there's a tab on there called coaching. And you just want to ask a question, you're not looking for a coaching session, use the same thing. You say, "Hey, Tracy, you said this on Tony's podcast. I think you're full of shit." That's fine. Let me know. I'm cool with that too. But yeah, go darkhorseschooling.com. And then the podcast, which is the Dark Horse Entrepreneur, drops an interview episode every Monday. So I get on just like you do and interview folks, and they share their stories and they drop their knowledge, and we all learn together. And then I drop solo episodes Tuesday through Friday, and it usually expands my version of the knowledge they shared. So, someone I had Colonel Carla Bass on not too long ago, and she just dropped all this amazing knowledge about writing, the power of writing, and how to
Mm,
write powerfully. So I spent the rest of the week saying how to write to convert on your website and how to create a space where you feel like you can write. And, so I just tried to expand on the nuggets of the experts from my point of view.
okay. Yeah, I love that, man. I love that. And I want to let the audience know, man, get in contact with Tracy. His information would be down in the links below. And so reach out to him, check out his podcast, shoot him a message, man. Have a conversation with him. He will blow your mind. And so I want to say thank you, Tracy, for being on here today. And to everyone tuning in, thank you for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed. If you like it, click subscribe, leave us a comment, tell us what you think. And yeah, you guys stay strong and keep moving forward. Tracy, thank you again for being on Memories of Us, man. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, Tony. Anytime, brother.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to another awesome episode of Memories of Us podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We have new guests every Tuesday. You can check us out on all your popular podcast platforms like iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Until next time, stay strong.